Emily Carter, 32, stood in the middle of the grand ballroom, the laughter echoing around her like a cruel joke she hadn't rehearsed for. Her sister's wedding was supposed to be a celebration, not a public execution. But when Vivian, standing in her white gown under the chandelier, grabbed the microphone and said, "My sister is a single mother, unwanted by anyone," the room erupted with laughter. Emily's mother shouted, "She's a used product." And even her father hid a smirk behind his hand. Emily froze, her 5-year-old son Noah clinging to her arm, his wide eyes full of confusion as he whispered, "Mommy, why are they laughing at you?" In that moment, Emily wished the ground would swallow her whole. The humiliation burned through her skin, but what hurt most wasn't the laughter. It was that her little boy had to see it. Yet while 200 guests laughed, one man didn't. Daniel Hayes, the groom, sat still, his expression unreadable as he watched Emily and Noah. What he did next would change everything, but before we get there, let's go back. Back to where it all began, in a quiet neighborhood of Greenwich, Connecticut, where Emily grew up believing love had to be earned through pain. In the Carter household there were 2 daughters, the princess and the workhorse. Vivian, the younger by 4 years, was their parents' golden child, blonde and charming, effortlessly adored. Emily was the dependable one, the girl who didn't need help, the one who was told she was strong whenever she cried. When prom came, Vivian received a $500 pink gown with sequins that sparkled under every light. Emily, 2 years earlier, had worn a $60 dress she bought with her babysitting money. Her mother had told her, "You don't need fancy things, dear. You're simple. It suits you." Even their rooms told the story. Vivian's had white furniture, fairy lights, and a balcony overlooking their garden. Emily's was next to the laundry closet, filled with old furniture from their late grandmother's house. Still, she didn't hate her sister. How could she? Vivian hadn't created the favoritism, she just benefited from it. But some nights, Emily lay awake wondering why her parents looked right through her. Was there something broken inside her? Something invisible that made her unworthy of the love her sister received so effortlessly? Years later, at 24, Emily met Jason Brooks, a charming pharmaceutical sales rep who made her feel seen for the first time. They married a year later, though her parents spent her wedding day bragging about Vivian's new internship in Manhattan. When Jason's charm faded into control, criticizing her looks, isolating her from friends, and finally cheating while she was 7 months pregnant, Emily was left alone with a baby and a broken spirit. Her mother sighed and said, "I always feared you didn't know how to keep a man happy." Vivian sent one text, "That sucks. Maybe try therapy." That was the extent of their support. Emily learned to survive on coffee, night shifts, and quiet tears. She worked 12-hour shifts at the ER while little Noah slept at a small overnight daycare that charged by the hour. She came home to reheat leftover noodles and hold her son close, whispering promises she didn't know how to keep. Every bill paid, every fever soothed, every patient saved at work was a reminder. She was stronger than they ever believed. But strength didn't make loneliness any easier. She wished sometimes that her mother would call just to ask how she was coping. That call never came. 2 years before the wedding, Vivian introduced her fiancé, Daniel Hayes. He was a children's rights lawyer, quiet, observant, with the kind of steady gaze that made you feel he actually listened. Emily met him during a family dinner. He greeted her warmly, then bent down to Noah's level and said, "Hey buddy. Cool dinosaur shirt. Is that a T-Rex?" Noah's face lit up like Christmas morning. Emily noticed the way Daniel studied the family dynamic. The constant interruptions from her mother, the laughter that excluded her, and how she cleared dishes while Vivian stayed seated. When Emily was loading her car after dinner, Daniel followed her outside. "Does your family always treat you like that?" he asked quietly. She tried to laugh it off. "Like what?" "Like you don't exist," he said. She forced a smile. "That's just how we are. Vivian's the favorite. I'm used to it." Daniel's voice softened. "You're a good mother, Emily. Noah's lucky to have you." That simple sentence made her eyes sting. No one had ever said that to her before. For days she replayed it in her head, wondering why a stranger's kindness felt more like family than her own parents' affection. When the wedding invitation arrived, cream paper, gold letters, it looked more like a royal decree than a family celebration. "Vivian Marie Carter and Daniel James Hayes request the pleasure of your company." Emily turned it over in her hands, her heart heavy with memories of her own wedding, the one her parents had barely attended in spirit. 2 weeks before the big day, Vivian called. "Morgan, sorry Emily," she said, her voice bright but sharp. "I need you to wear something neutral. Nothing too bold. And, are you bringing Noah? He might get restless." Emily replied gently. "He's 5, Viv. I can't leave him alone." "Fine," Vivian sighed. "Just keep him quiet." On the morning of the wedding, Emily's mother called with one last instruction. "You'll be seated near the service entrance," she said flatly. "Please don't make a scene. This is Vivian's day." Emily looked at her son in his tiny navy vest, smiling proudly in the mirror. "We'll be okay, right, Mommy?" he asked. She smiled back, heart aching. "Yes, baby. We'll be okay." But as she walked into the glittering Carlton Hotel ballroom filled with chandeliers and rose petals, she didn't realize she was walking straight into an ambush, a stage set perfectly for her public humiliation. The ballroom shimmered like something out of a bridal magazine, white roses everywhere, golden lights reflecting off the crystal chandeliers. Emily tried to stay invisible, guiding Noah to their table tucked behind a pillar near the kitchen door. Every time the servers passed, she caught snippets of laughter and compliments about how stunning Vivian looked. Her parents floated across the room like royalty, shaking hands and posing for photos, pretending their other daughter didn't exist. "Mommy, why aren't we sitting with Grandma?" Noah whispered. Emily smiled faintly. "We're fine right here, sweetheart. We can see everything." When Vivian swept into the ballroom in her breathtaking white gown, the crowd gasped. She was glowing, radiant, every bit the golden girl her parents had always adored. Her eyes met Emily's across the room, her lips curving into a smile that wasn't warm. It was victory. On her way to the head table, she stopped briefly at Emily's corner. "You made it," she said, her tone cool. "Of course I did," Emily replied softly. "You're my sister." Vivian's gaze flicked to Noah. "Just remember what I said, keep him quiet." Then she was gone, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive perfume and superiority. As the ceremony began, Emily held Noah on her lap and forced herself to breathe through the ache in her chest. Daniel stood tall beside Vivian, but his eyes wandered briefly to Emily's table. She couldn't read his expression. Was it pity? Concern? Maybe both. The vows were perfect, the music angelic, the applause thunderous. For a moment, Emily almost forgot the bitterness and simply watched love being promised. But when the photographer called for family portraits, her mother appeared out of nowhere, blocking her path. "Just the immediate family," she said curtly. "Mom, I'm her sister. We'll take yours later." Emily's lips trembled, but she nodded and stepped aside. Later, as she sat alone with Noah, Emily took a small photo of him smiling. "We'll take our own picture, huh?" she said, trying to keep her voice light. Noah grinned, showing his missing front tooth. "Just us, Mommy." "Just us," she whispered. The music swelled, laughter rippled through the room, and Emily realized she was sitting at the farthest table for a reason. She wasn't family today. She was decoration. She tried to focus on Noah's joy, but inside, something fragile cracked. She told herself it would be over soon, that she just had to endure it quietly like always. When Vivian took the microphone during dinner, the crowd fell silent. "I just want to thank everyone," she began sweetly, her diamond bracelet glinting under the lights. "This day means everything to me." Her speech started beautifully, about love, gratitude, and family. Then her tone shifted. "But family also teaches us lessons," she said, her eyes scanning the room. "Especially my sister." Emily froze. "Morgan, could you stand up?" 200 heads turned. The name slipped out. Vivian still called her by her old teasing nickname. Emily rose slowly, heart pounding. "There she is," Vivian said, smiling too wide. "My big sister, the strong one. She's a single mother, you know." Nervous laughter scattered around the room. "She married young, had a baby, but the man couldn't handle it. So now she's alone." A ripple of uneasy chuckles followed. Emily's cheeks burned. Vivian continued, "No man wants her now. 'Tis unwanted." The crowd gasped, then laughed louder when their mother shouted from her seat, "She's a used product." The ballroom exploded with laughter. Emily's throat closed. Noah looked up, his small hand tightening around hers. "Mommy, why are they laughing?" She couldn't answer. Vivian's voice dripped with cruelty as she raised her champagne glass. To my sister, my cautionary tale. She taught me exactly what not to do. Applause. Emily's vision blurred. Her mother was laughing, her father smiling faintly as if nothing was wrong. Emily wanted to run but couldn't. Her legs felt rooted in shame. Noah hid his face in her lap, his tiny shoulders shaking. She whispered, "It's okay, baby," though nothing about this moment was okay. It was humiliation so public, so intentional it felt like a knife. Then silence. A sound of movement from the front. Daniel, still in his suit, pushed back his chair. Vivian's voice faltered. "Daniel, baby, what are you?" He didn't answer. He walked straight to the stage, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. The crowd turned, whispers spreading like wildfire. Daniel reached the stage, took the microphone from Vivian's hand and said calmly, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something I need to say." His voice echoed across the silent room. "I've spent 2 years watching how this family treats Emily Carter," he said, his gaze steady. 2 years of dinners where she's ignored. 2 years of holidays where she's treated like she doesn't belong. And tonight, in front of her child, you called her a used product. Vivian's face went pale. "Daniel, stop. You're embarrassing me." He stepped away. "No, Vivian. You embarrassed yourself." Murmurs filled the room. "I'm a children's rights lawyer. I fight against this kind of cruelty every day. And I refuse to marry into a family that finds pleasure in it." He pointed toward Emily and Noah, who were still frozen in shock. "That little boy is 5. And you just made him watch 200 adults laugh at his mother. That's not family. That's abuse." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniel turned to Vivian, his voice breaking slightly. "I can't do this. I won't." He set the microphone down and walked off the stage. The silence that followed was deafening. Vivian stood frozen. Her perfect wedding, her perfect image, shattered in an instant. And for the first time in her life, Emily saw her sister without power. For a moment no one moved. Then Emily's mother shot to her feet, her expensive gown sweeping the floor. "What did you do?" she hissed across the room, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "What did you say to him, Emily?" Emily stood frozen, still holding Noah close. "Nothing, Mom," she said quietly. "You ruined your sister's wedding," her mother screamed. "You've always been jealous of her." The crowd, moments ago silent, began to whisper again. Vivian sat at the head table, makeup streaking her face, staring at the empty spot where her groom had been seconds earlier. Emily could feel every eye on her, could sense the narrative twisting. Some guests whispering she must have done something. That familiar ache rose in her chest, the one that had followed her since childhood whenever she was blamed for things she hadn't done. But this time something was different. She looked at Noah, his face pressed against her shoulder, tears wetting her dress. She couldn't let him believe this was normal. Slowly, Emily stood, lifted her chin and said calmly, "I didn't say anything to Daniel. He just saw the truth." The murmurs quieted, the crowd unsure how to react to her steadiness. Vivian shot to her feet, pointing at her sister. "You've been trying to ruin me from the start. You couldn't stand that I was happy." Emily didn't reply. She just picked up her purse, took Noah's hand and said softly, "Come on, baby. We're going home." Her mother shouted after her, "You come back here and apologize right now." But Emily didn't turn back. The ballroom doors loomed ahead, tall and golden. Noah's small voice trembled. "Mommy, are you mad?" Emily smiled faintly through her tears. "No, sweetheart. I'm done being mad." As she reached the exit, Daniel was standing there waiting. He looked exhausted, his tie loose, his face pale. "Emily," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Don't be. You did what no one else had the courage to do." He reached into his pocket and handed her a small business card. "If you ever need help, legal or otherwise, call me. No charge." She took it and managed a grateful smile. "Thank you, Daniel. Not just for me, for him." She looked down at Noah, who clung to her tightly. Daniel nodded once, eyes full of respect, then stepped aside to let them pass. Back home, Emily tucked Noah into bed, his little dinosaur toy in his arms. When he fell asleep, she sat in the dark staring at her phone. Dozens of missed calls. Her mother. Her father. Vivian. Then a single text from Aunt Linda, her mother's younger sister. Emily, I saw the live stream. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. I'm here if you need anything. It was the first message of kindness she'd received from a family member in years. She cried quietly, not from sadness this time but relief. Someone had finally seen her. The next morning, screenshots arrived from her best friend, Rachel. They were from the family group chat, the one Emily had been removed from months earlier. Vivian, I'm going to call her out at the wedding. Mom, just don't go too far, sweetie. Vivian, she deserves it. She's always been an embarrassment. Dad, just leave me out of it. Emily read each line with shaking hands. They had planned it. Every word. Every insult. Her humiliation had been rehearsed. She stared at the screen until tears blurred the words. For the first time she stopped hoping they'd ever change. That night, Emily opened a note on her phone and typed two simple words. No contact. She wasn't going to explain, argue, or beg them to see her worth. She would simply disappear from their lives, the way they'd wanted all along. She blocked her parents' numbers, then Vivian's, and finally turned her phone off. When she looked at Noah sleeping peacefully, she whispered, "We're going to be okay, baby. I promise." And for the first time she believed it. 3 days later, her parents appeared at her apartment. Her mother stood on the steps, face tight with fury. "You blocked me," she said coldly. "After what you did to your sister." Emily's voice was calm. "After what I did. You helped her write that speech." Her mother's jaw tightened. "It was a joke." "A joke." Emily's tone sharpened. "You humiliated me in front of my son. You made him cry." For a second, guilt flickered across her mother's face, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Vivian's devastated," she said. "You've destroyed her life." Emily exhaled slowly. "No, Mom. She destroyed her own." Her father shifted uncomfortably beside his wife, staring at the floor. Emily continued, her voice steady. "You always told me to keep quiet, to be the good daughter. But I won't raise my son to think silence is strength." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, performative, practiced. "You'll regret this one day," she said dramatically. Emily gave a sad smile. "Maybe. But at least my son will grow up knowing love doesn't sound like laughter at someone's pain." Then she opened her door, took Noah's hand and said softly, "Goodbye." Months passed and peace slowly filled the spaces where pain used to live. Emily was promoted at work. Noah started kindergarten, coming home each day with crayon drawings of dinosaurs and hearts labeled Mommy. Daniel sent a small package for Noah's birthday, a dinosaur encyclopedia, no note, no strings attached. Aunt Linda visited often, bringing homemade soup and warmth. The family Emily was born into was gone, but the family she built, of love, respect, and safety, was more real than anything she'd ever known. One night, Noah showed her a drawing of two stick figures holding hands. "That's us, Mommy," he said proudly. Emily smiled through quiet tears. "Yes, baby. That's us. Just us, and that's enough."